Thanks very much, Cian Corla, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss the OECD report on skills in the Dáil here today. It's a timely intervention, as yesterday also marks the beginning of the 2023 EU Year of the Skills. And this is the year where we're all challenged to look at our skills in our own country, but also challenged to look at skills in our own life and what skill we may wish to take up or learn or avail of during the course of 2023. This is a year that will focus on what we can do to address skills shortages in our country and to also help people engaging in learning through all stages of their lives. There's no doubt that this country does punch above its weight when it comes to the numbers who pursue a third-level education, and it's very clear in the OECD report yesterday that we're not just slightly above the OECD average, but very significantly above the OECD average when it comes to third-level participation. But our development as individuals, as people, as citizens, as employees, our desire to reach our full potential does not begin or end with a degree or with a professional qualification. Education now comes in so many different forms, so many different ways. It's not about something that you do at a certain age of your life and then no more. We do have that well-worn path in this country of a very successful Leaving Cert exam, a good day at the CAO, and a pathway to university and on to a job. And that works well for many, and that is good. But it also does pose other questions. It can place an inordinate pressure on young people. And indeed, by channeling or funneling or trying to narrow the conversation around skills, it can actually contribute to skills shortages across the country, and particularly in certain parts of the economy. For far too long, young people have perhaps believed that all of their options are confined to the CAO system, a system that does not account for further education and training or for apprenticeships. I don't think that's fair on young people. I don't think it's fair on Ireland. I don't think it's good for well-being, and that's why we're changing it. Because this is about ensuring that every single person in Ireland has an ability to reach their full potential. And without making changes, we're limiting the possibilities for people. We also must recall that when we talk about access to education, and if I make no other point, this is one I really wish to make, it is not about something that people do in that time-bound period of age. More and more we're going to see people wanting to and requiring to access education and skills at a certain time of their life. Perhaps the student is now not going to just be the 18 or 19-year-old straight out of school and on into university, but more and more the person in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, their 70s and beyond. People with care dependence, people maybe with children they're trying to look after at home, or parents are trying to care for, people with a full-time job perhaps, trying to juggle life and all that life throws at you while still availing of an education and having a right to be able to avail of that. The OECD report, which myself and Minister Collins published yesterday, is the culmination of 15 months of work, and I want to thank my own department colleagues and people in the OECD for their work on this. I believe it lays out the blueprint for the change that we've started to implement. It states very starkly that Irish people run the risk of falling behind because they don't have the skills that they need to thrive. I think the starkest is in the area of digital skills and green skills. The pace of digitalisation has accelerated, and we must make sure we never leave a generation of people behind. We need to invest in providing digital skills to each and every person in the country. We cannot live in a country where, as is currently the case, 1 in 2 of us lack basic digital skills. Yet we talk about online government, online public services, moving everything online. We saw that even accelerate further during the COVID pandemic. The type of skills varies too. For some it can be learning to FaceTime a family relative. For others it can be to pay a property tax or a bill online. For others it can be how you build a website to put your own business online. And for many of us it can be about getting the skills to keep pace with our jobs. The report also reminds us of the challenges we face as a country and as a world to address the climate emergency. We know we need more people to help us make our homes warmer, for example. The government's action plan on climate is culminated in the idea that we're going to retrofit at least 500,000 more homes by 2030. And we are, I'm pleased to say, making good progress on this. But we need more people to work in this area if we're to reach those targets. I'm pleased to say that there are encouraging signs. Already this year, 930 people have taken part in retrofitting training. But there are other areas we need to do better on. For example, sale of electric vehicles outweighed the sale of new diesel cars this year for the first time ever. Good progress. But we need to make sure we live in a country where we have mechanics with the ability to repair the EVs. That's why we're going to open EV training centres. Ireland wants to be a wind exporter, a massive opportunity to go from being a net importer of energy to an exporter of clean renewable energy. But again, how do we have the skills to meet this ambition? Very good conversations at government about this yesterday. As we really pursue the offshore wind agenda, how do we make sure that jobs that quite frankly didn't really exist in our country only a few years ago, now that we have an education system that can respond to those training needs? And I'm thinking today, for example, of the wind turbine apprenticeship, maintenance apprenticeship programme in Kerry provided by KETB. So these are some of the fundamental issues we need to grapple with. The new jobs that will arise as the new challenges come and as the new responses come to those challenges. And this is why we are placing an unrelenting focus on apprenticeships to ensure we keep up with the demands of the economy. It's why we have to, as I say, end that snobby or narrow view to education. And it's why we want to ensure people do not stop learning after they finish school or after they finish a college degree or even after they finish a master's, that more and more learning is seen as something that continues throughout your life, albeit in different ways. The most striking finding of the report is how participation in lifelong learning, in reskilling and in upskilling in Ireland falls below the EU top performers, countries like Sweden and Finland. Now, let's not get this wrong or misinterpret it. Ireland is above the EU average when it comes to access to lifelong learning. So we are above the EU average. But that's not where we want to be. We don't want to be just a little better than average. We want to be amongst the top performers. We want to be leading the European Union when it comes to access to lifelong learning. And we need to make sure that we don't fall off a cliff in terms of learning when we leave that traditional tertiary age. This doesn't serve us well as people. It doesn't serve us well as a country. Again, that requires a fundamental change in terms of how the education system works. Because if we're serious about lifelong learning, and I think that's a jargony phrase sometimes, lifelong learning, it effectively means being able to dip in and out of education in a way that works for you whilst carrying out life and work. If we're to do that, the education system needs to be more flexible. It will be less about packing your bags and heading to the university for 4 years at that stage of your life. That's not practical for some people holding down a full-time job. And it'll be more about making sure that courses are provided in a flexible manner. It also means that we need to financially support people in terms of how they access education. So if we want to encourage more people to do it part-time, we need to change the SUSI grant scheme so that you can actually access the student grant scheme whilst undertaking part-time education. And my department is currently examining SUSI for part-time learning, and I intend to make this a priority in the months ahead. Colleagues, with the 2023 EU Year of Skills, we know that we face that common challenge. Learning, as we know it, has changed. Systems and people now need to change with it. With economic and social megatrends, particularly the serial digital revolution underway and the climate transformation unfolding before us, the change in both our professional and our personal lives will only continue to happen faster. As we continue to grapple with and invest in areas such as digital and data skills, it becomes clearer as the amount of data at our fingertips grows and as technology advances to be ever more accessible, the challenge is to have and to harness human skills as well as digital and data skills. This is another important point I want to make. We need to stop using that phrase, soft skills. Do you remember this phrase? More and more we actually know that soft skills are actually core skills. Actually skills like connecting, communicating, collaborating in teams, managing change, deploying resilience, intercultural skills, and critically the skills of creativity. They're in our DNA as Irish people, and they're not kind of soft skills, that dismissive language. They're actually core skills that employers want to see in the workplace, core skills that we require to be well-rounded individuals as well. And we need to invest more in our people. The people are our gold. Other countries have big gold reserves. We have our people. Our people are our most precious natural resource. It has been said that an education is the one thing no one can take from you. This remains true. However, now it is a new conception of education. It's no longer just something formal that happens to just someone young. It's a life course of informal and formal learning, and it is the passport that carries and cloaks an individual through change and through challenge, the business through volatility and complexity, and the collective, our country, through times of uncertainty and ambiguity. If the global challenge then is to boldly and bravely embrace a fully transformed, fully 21st century model of learning and growth, the trick for Ireland is that we be just as ambitious and just as successful in our pursuit of this as we have been in the last generation in our embrace of education. We have good form in relation to this. If we look back at our educational progress as a country, across successive governments, across successive years, we've made a lot of progress. Now we need to make the same amount of progress again in terms of the changing educational realities and landscapes. So my department will now be seeking to take forward the key OECD report recommendations at pace, including examining options for updating our legislative framework, how we can strengthen the role of the National Skills Council, how we can examine the role of the National Training Fund, something that everybody is paying into from an employer point of view, as well. We need to examine, does it need to be modernised to ensure that it can continue to have an appropriately encompassing and broad focus on the skills priority for the whole country, and as we define them, looking at future trends and needs. I really look forward to working closely with the revitalised National Skills Council to prioritise this important work. I thank everybody who serves and has served on our National Skills Council, and look forward to the discussion now about how it can be further reformed and strengthened, how we can take SkillNet, our agency that reaches into business in terms of upskilling and reskilling, and further provide it with support. Yesterday, as I launched the 2023 EU Year of Skills, I asked every individual in Ireland to learn one new skill this year. I won't ask you in real time, Cian Corla, what yours might be, but certainly I intend to try and take up one or two this year. And through this year, my department will be undertaking significant awareness raising, highlighting that there are already, notwithstanding the changes we need to make, notwithstanding the reforms to come, there are already lots of opportunities out there to upskill, to reskill, and to learn in a way that works for you. This is the challenge we're setting. I know we'll rise to it. Ireland has always been an island of learning, a country of creatives, and a people known for ingenuity with capacity for change. We need not be daunted by the scale of the OECD report, by the scale of transformation we're living to, but we do have a lot of work to do, and now we need to go and get it.